5 years ago, if you wanted a tooltip, a scroll animation, scoped styles, or advanced UI interactions, you reached for JavaScript. Today, CSS is stealing JavaScript's job. In 2026, modern CSS can do things that required entire JavaScript libraries just a few years ago. Less code, faster websites, fewer bugs. If you're still coding like it's 2020, you're making your project slower and your life harder. Today, you'll learn 7 modern CSS features that professional front-end developers are using right now. By the end of this video, in it, you'll build tooltips, scroll animations, component-level styling, and smarter CSS architecture without writing a single line of JavaScript. Open VS Code. Let's upgrade your CSS superpowers. Create a new folder called CSS-future-features. Inside it, create 2 files, index.html and style.css. Let's build a small playground where we can experiment with some of the most exciting CSS features available today. We'll create a simple page with a button, a tooltip, a card component, and a scroll section that we'll use throughout the lesson. Once you've got that running in live server or your browser preview, you're ready for the first feature. Let's start with something that used to be surprisingly annoying to build: tooltips. If you've ever created a tooltip with JavaScript, you know the pain. You have to calculate coordinates, track screen size, handle scrolling, and constantly reposition elements. For something as simple as a little pop-up message, that's a lot of work. Anchor positioning changes everything. CSS can now understand that one element should be positioned relative to another element. Watch this. We're giving the button an anchor name. Then we're telling the tooltip to position itself relative to that anchor. The tooltip can now align itself directly beneath the button using pure CSS. No JavaScript calculations, no event listeners, no manual positioning logic. That's incredible. For years, developers relied on JavaScript libraries for dropdowns, popovers, and tooltips. Now CSS handles much of that work natively. This is one of the biggest front-end improvements we've seen in a very long time. And if this is your first time seeing anchor positioning, hit subscribe because modern CSS is evolving quickly and we're covering the features that will keep your skills future-proof. Now let's tackle another common JavaScript use case: scroll animations. Traditionally, if you wanted something to animate while the user scrolled, you'd write a scroll listener. You'd track scroll position, calculate percentages, update styles, and hope performance didn't suffer. Modern CSS has a better solution: scroll-driven animations. Let's build a progress bar at the top of the page. Notice what happens when we connect the animation timeline directly to scrolling. As we move down the page, the progress bar grows automatically. CSS is reading the scroll position and driving the animation. No JavaScript, no external library, no custom calculations. This isn't just cleaner. It's also more efficient because the browser can optimize these animations internally. As front-end developers, we should always prefer native browser features when they solve the problem well. And this is a perfect example. Quick win. You've already replaced 2 common JavaScript patterns using only CSS. Tooltips and scroll progress indicators. That's real-world functionality with less code and fewer moving parts. If you'd like the complete code snippets, takeaway summary, and coding challenge from this lesson, make sure to grab the resources that accompany this course. They'll save you a lot of time when practicing. Now let's level things up even further. Meet view timelines. Think of this feature as CSS gaining a built-in version of intersection observer. Normally, if you wanted an animation to trigger when an element enters the viewport, you'd write JavaScript. Not anymore. We're attaching an animation timeline to the card itself. Now the animation begins when the card enters the visible area of the browser. Watch how smooth that feels. The card fades in and slides upward naturally as it becomes visible. This creates modern, professional-looking interfaces without any JavaScript setup. The browser is doing all the heavy lifting. That's exactly what we want. By the way, I'm curious. Which approach do you prefer for animations, JavaScript or modern CSS timelines? Let me know in the comments and tell me why. I read those answers because they're a great way to see how developers are thinking about modern front-end architecture. Next up is a feature that solves a problem almost every CSS developer has experienced. You change one style, suddenly something breaks on a completely different page. Welcome to CSS leakage. As projects grow, styles can accidentally affect elements they were never meant to touch. That's where @scope comes in. Think of @scope as creating a protective boundary around your styles. Inside this scope, our heading and paragraph styles only apply to the product card component. Nothing outside that component is affected. This makes CSS more modular, more predictable, and easier to maintain. If you've ever struggled with giant style sheets where everything seems connected to everything else, you'll appreciate what @scope brings to the table. Now let's talk about one of the most important CSS architecture features introduced in recent years. Cascade layers. Raise your hand if you've ever used important because CSS refused to cooperate. Most developers have. The problem is that CSS specificity can become difficult to manage as projects grow. Cascade layers give us explicit control over style priority. Instead of fighting the cascade, we organize it. We can create layers for resets, components, utilities, themes, or anything else our project needs. The browser then follows the layer order we define. This means fewer specificity battles, cleaner architecture, and code that's easier for teams to maintain. Large companies and design systems are already embracing this approach because it makes styling predictable, and predictable code is productive code. Feature number 6 is native CSS nesting. For years, developers relied on preprocessors like SASS to write nested styles. But now nesting is built directly into CSS. Take a look at how much cleaner this code becomes. Instead of repeating long selectors over and over again, we can organize related styles together. The result is more readable CSS and less duplication. This doesn't mean preprocessors disappear overnight, but it does mean modern CSS is absorbing many of the features that once required extra tooling. That's a recurring theme in front-end development. The platform keeps getting better. And now for one of the most requested CSS features of all time, the has selector. Honestly, this feature feels like magic the first time you use it. For decades, CSS could style children based on parents, but styling a parent based on its children, that wasn't possible. Now it is. Here we're saying, if this form group contains a focused input, apply a border to the parent container. Watch the result. As soon as the input gains focus, the entire container responds. No JavaScript, no additional classes, no event listeners, just CSS. Developers waited over 20 years for this capability, and now it's finally here. Now it's your turn. Here's your coding challenge. Build a feature showcase section with at least 3 cards. Each card should include a tooltip powered by anchor positioning. Animate the cards using view timelines. Organize your styles using cascade layers. And for bonus points, use the has selector to create interactive focus states or hover effects. Try building it without searching for a solution immediately. The struggle is where real learning happens. And if you get stuck, use your AI coding assistant as a learning partner, not as a copy-paste machine. Ask it questions, explore alternatives, understand the code. That's how you level up. Let's recap what you've learned today. Anchor positioning replaces a huge amount of tooltip and popover JavaScript. Scroll timelines let animations respond directly to scrolling. View timelines make viewport-triggered animations incredibly simple. @scope prevents style leakage and improves maintainability. @layer gives you predictable control over the CSS cascade. Native nesting reduces the need for preprocessors. And has finally gives CSS parent awareness. Together, these features represent a major shift in front-end development. Modern CSS is no longer just about styling. It's becoming a powerful UI engineering tool. You're now using CSS features that many developers haven't even explored yet. That's a huge advantage. In the next episode, we're going to create Apple-style animations using only CSS. You'll learn how professional websites achieve those smooth premium interactions that make products feel polished and expensive. Before you leave, take the quiz linked with this lesson to lock in everything you learned today. And if this video helped you replace even a little JavaScript with cleaner CSS, hit the like button, share it with another developer, and keep building. I'll see you in the next lesson.